Okay, in this video I'm coming back to the SSD frame rate again for using external batteries and not being able to get those kind of high frame rates like HD 300 or 4K 100 or 120. And this will be specifically for the Panasonic GH6 or for the G9 Mark II, because they're the ones that support those higher frame rates. And I thought I had this all kind of neatly sewn up and I'd kind of worked it all out, but then one other thing has kind of come to my attention, and I did a video about using these kind of jack connectors in the other video, so I'll link to that. But essentially what it is, I've got two different Condor Blue cables here, and I not actually realised, but these two are ever so slightly different. So the sort of the actual versions are kind of embossed on them. So what you've got on this bottom one is it's the DCC12, which was sort of like the older the older external power option for, say, cameras like the GH5, and then with the newer batteries we've got the DCC17. So it says in there that it handles both DCC12, DCC17. And then for this one we've got it's essentially just DCC17, and they both say they support 8.4 volts, and they do look fairly similar. But on the bottom of the battery, what I've done, obviously all of this, Panasonic don't recommend external power, you do it at your own risk, but I'm just sort of highlighting a point with this. But basically on the bottom, this actually has 4 pins and this one has 2. And someone had raised it to me that they were saying if the pins are covered, they think that it would actually bring the frame rates back. Because the strange thing is, even though I don't really see reduced frame rates generally on the DCC12 or DCC, obviously the DCC17 should work, this one, the 2 pin, always works and I can always get those high frame rates. With this one, which allegedly is also a DCC17, it's got 4 pins. So what I've done, just for the point of this, is just covered those pins just so I can show you. So you'll have seen this one working in a different video, like the one with the high frame rates, but let me just kind of show you this battery here. So if I just plug it into here, I'll plug it into my small rig battery into the 12 volt port, you'll see the front of the battery will come on. I'll swap out my stock battery for this, and I'm plugged into a Samsung T7 Shield, so when I switch it on, I'm not sure if that's actually going to focus, hopefully it will. It'll take a bit of time to boot up because I've just plugged the SSD in. So the SSD should be on, and then you can see we've got a little bit of recording time down there, we've got a few hours, so it's connected to the SSD. And then when I hit the My Queue menu anyway, it's got the rep quality in there, so you can see everything's available there. But strangely, as this battery comes, like I say, if I just give it a second to power down, I'll pop that battery out, just shut the door down on it. If I pull these back off, all I've done is just put a little bit of electrical tape over there, but you can see it's basically the D and T pin points. You've got D, minus, T, and then the plus power point, so like the negative and positive. And if I take it off and leave it like that, and then put it back into the camera, and then we switch it on again. Let me just see if I can grab focus again. And then once it's powered up, if I go back into the queue menu, you can see now with those pins there, it removes that that ability to record those high frame rates. And it's an odd one because someone did mention this before, and I tried it with one of my other batteries. And as I say, you really shouldn't be covering the pins with tape. It's not an ideal solution. It's not something I'd recommend as a workable solution. But just out of intrigue, I kind of did it just to see if it does work. So essentially this one now is not capable of doing that, and I could use this over DTAP, I could use it a 12 volt port. It's just not going to offer those, and it is essentially just because of the pin configuration on the on a dummy battery. So essentially the kind of takeaway is that you want, sorry, let me grab the other dummy battery that does work. So essentially you want a DCC17, but the one that actually works is the DC17 with the 2 pins. The one with the 4 pins is not going to give you those high frame rates. Everything else works, you know, it works fine up until certain frame rates, and there's no problem with this as a battery. But if you want those higher frame rates, you need this 2-pin DCC17. And I'll link to kind of all these bits. And again, this is purely just over SSD. It's not, you know, it's not going to affect anything internally. CF Express, you can record whatever you like, you know, whether you're on an external battery or not. But yeah, on SSD, you're going to want to be looking for this one. And it's very difficult because when you're buying it on some of the websites, you know, you end up getting different dummy batteries. And because I've got a few of them, I've sort of forgotten really which ones came with which. But I think actually this one, the DCC12, DCC17, I think this actually came with my jack cable, so with this one, and the DTAP version, which is sort of this end of it, because they come apart. I sort of just use them interchangeably, but the DTAP version, so this cable here, I believe that came with the correct dummy battery with the 2 pins on it. So it's yeah, it's not ideal. It's sort of making an already very confusing subject even more confusing. But I just kind of wanted to highlight that because I didn't want people to get the cable, think it's going to work, and then suddenly it doesn't because it's got, you know, a different dummy battery on the end. And I think it's one of those things where almost you're going to have to talk to the supplier before you kind of get these cables, because if you're buying it specifically for the high frame rates, you're going to need the right dummy battery, or it's not going to work in the way that you're intending. So I mean, this kind of works fine for me because I quite often, the reason I've not really come across this, I think, is because more often than not I'm using one in the GH5 and one in the GH6, and I'm not using the obviously I can't use the high frame rates on the GH5 anyway, so I don't have that issue, so I can just use the working one on the GH6 and the other one on the GH5. But yeah, it's something worth kind of bearing in mind. I mean, if you've had any kind of you know, if you've tried different dummy batteries and they sort of haven't worked, I'd be interested to know. But like I say, the Condor Blues for me, they're the ones that I'd like to use because I've had good kind of customer experience with them, and I just find that they're reliable batteries. I've never had an issue with them. If you've come across any issues like this, then leave them in the comments. It'd be interesting to kind of know. Yeah, hopefully that kind of helps someone. If it does, give the video a like. If you want to see more content like this, then please subscribe.